This is a poem for the government. We're back in school, and it's a weird feeling, seeing all my mates around again. But a few months is a long time in the education game, and things aren't quite the same. They're quieter in recent times and less themselves. And it's difficult not to think of what the consequences of that time away entails, and what has been done and will be done to address it. Especially when you start to spend some time realizing that the education the politicians' children receive and that of my own has not been the same. If it were, would we still be waiting for laptops almost a year down the line? Or promised many and delivered a few? How do you cut up a laptop, Mr. Johnson? They don't teach us that in school. Still, it wouldn't have taken longer than it takes a baby to be born if one of your babies was sent home with an envelope stuffed full of paper and told to work on their own. Why do you think we needed them in the first place, Mr. Johnson, and couldn't access it from home? Do you think it's because our parents and carers were so lucky as to have abandoned the internet for a purer life? Because we had the luxury of disconnecting and going off zone? That when lockdown struck, we'd all be sitting in the garden with those envelopes reminiscing about how it's all been fine because they didn't use computers either back in the time of the home phone. Are you okay? Do you not think we can see what's happening right in front of your homegrown nose? When 4 out of 10 of us from disadvantaged backgrounds barely even heard from our teacher. Millions and millions of children sent home to figure it out, with parents and carers already forced into calculations about how they would feed their families and run their homes and last it out. You have allowed this pandemic to discriminate. Why should these families have to shout to be heard? Or need a professional footballer to make a noise because then you have no choice to listen, otherwise to look absurd? Why won't you just realise we do not have a voice and do what you were elected to do and act on our behalf? And not for those that have servants, but you continue to serve. They just wanted some food for their kids because they couldn't buy it themselves. They just needed a computer for the same reason every single one of your children has them. Do you want me to go on? Because actually, things weren't so great before this world went wrong. If your children had to share their books one between two, or sit in a classroom with 33 others waiting for the glue, or where the parents were asked to contribute so there was enough paper for the loo, do you think that would change your view? Or do you need a tour around the classroom filled with the students of the world that you continue to ignore, by forcing them to study only poets who look like you and your fathers of yore? That every year they pick extracts in the English exam about Glastonbury and Cornwall and never stop to consider how perhaps this isn't quite fair. How state school teachers are still not respected, and somehow your own education system has made us think that you can't have done well if you're one of them. How many hours of music lessons do your children have in your home? I hate to think how many more it is than I have in my school. And even those we have, you've rationed out in a way with 15 minutes each week that even a little Mozart would struggle to learn. You should spend some more time in our schools, Mr. Johnson. Do you think then what needed to be done would be clearer? And just to be clear, no one is criticising you for closing the schools. You should have done it earlier. We're writing this poem because the gap between those that have and those that don't continue to be drawn. And it's starting to look like, because when your children and those of your colleagues see you come home and say they've had a good day, there's no job to be done. Well done for listening. Now over to you, Mr. Johnson. The class is unsettled, but we're ready to learn. So change the title now and prove us wrong.